Quickly he produced a red card from his pocket and waved it at each of them. I later learned this meant they were both being sent off or disqualified from play. The two sulked to their respective dressing rooms, exchanging hostile glances the entire way. I was shocked by this display, though not nearly as thoroughly as Sir Stephen, who apologized profusely on behalf of his organization. It had turned out that he was part owner and member of the board of directors of the new club team that had been created to utilize this Stamford Bridge Stadium, Chelsea Football Club. He expressed to me his profound concern that such an incident would damage the reputation of his team and the club itself. I could tell him little by way of comfort, such things being outside of my area of expertise. At any rate, I remained at the stadium for the rest of the match and did my best to encourage him. Once the match had ended, it had been won by the visitors called Fulham Football Club by a score of 2-1. I bid my acquaintance a farewell, thanking him for the invitation, and started for home. But I had scarcely gotten to the coach that had been called for me before Sir Stephen came running out of the clubhouse and yelled for me to wait. Doctor, please, you must come quickly." Puzzled, I followed him back through the private exterior entrance into the dressing room area, where I found a number of players and support staff gathered around in a scrum. Sir Stephen pushed several of them aside, pulling me along behind him. There, at the center of the crowd, I found two players, still in their uniforms, lying motionless on tables. One wore the white shirt and black trousers of the Fulham side, the other the royal blue of Chelsea. As I studied their faces, I realized that they were the same two men who had earlier been ejected from the match. "We found him lying on the floor here," one of the Chelsea players breathlessly told me. "Both of them." I performed a quick check on the Chelsea player first. "Is he hurt, doctor?" Sir Stephen asked desperately. And I recalled then that he told me earlier this man was his most valuable player, the highest paid and most vital player for their chances of a successful season. "He is unconscious," I reported, "but should recover quickly." Then I turned my attention to the player in the Fulham uniform. "Thank God," Sir Stephen was saying. "And is that one hurt?" "Hurt?" I looked at him in surprise and with grim realization. This man is dead. And I'm going to do a little bit more because I want to bring Holmes into it. Okay, so like the other half page. "Watson, how good to see you!" It was 2 hours later, and I stood in the doorway of my old lodgings at 221B Baker Street, an address I had not visited in some time. The apartment was as untidy as ever, with stacks of paper occupying every available space, dirty dishes from both breakfast and lunch perched precariously atop some of them. Seated in a comfortable reclining chair on the far side of the room sat my longtime friend and crime-solving associate, Sherlock Holmes. His legs were propped up on yet another stack of his files, and he was in the act of filling his pipe with shag he kept in an old Persian slipper. "I apologize for the intrusion, Holmes," I began. "Not at all," he replied instantly. "I know you will take it as no slight when I tell you that the only visitor I welcome with greater anticipation is a client with a particularly challenging case." "Then perhaps I might be able to kill two birds with one stone," I told him as I turned to hang my hat and coat. When I turned back, he was gazing at me keenly. "I had not taken you for a football enthusiast, Watson," he stated matter-of-factly, "so I'm curious as to why you should have attended a football match at Stamford Bridge today, and who was murdered there." "What? But how could you possibly have known that?" I caught myself before proceeding further with that line of questioning, and seeing as how I had on far too many occasions been the object of my friend's singularly remarkable powers of insight and observation. Still, in this case, I could scarcely think of how he had divined such knowledge. Word of the player's death could not possibly have leaked out and reached him so quickly, not to mention how he could have known that I was present at the event. I said as much to him. "Why, it is simplicity itself, my old friend," he replied with a tiny wry smile. "Your nose is red as from having spent some time outdoors very recently in the cool air. 3 strands of yarn lie upon your coat, there to the back, where you had not noticed them. They are blue and white, clearly from a scarf of some sort, as with the type carried by sporting enthusiasts to celebrate their teams, but far too bright in color for most standard scarves. The coat is rumpled at the elbows as from a crowd of people pressing in against you from both sides. Your shoes still carry a bit of dirt and grass about the edges. All of this indicates a likelihood of you having attended a football match. Judging by the color of the yarn, I can rule out most of the teams in this area. But I do believe the new team, the one located in Hammersmith and Fulham, at the new Stamford Bridge venue, has adopted those exact colors." He gestured to the newspaper that lay open before him. "A quick glance reveals that indeed that very side, Chelsea, was scheduled to play a match earlier today at their home grounds. A trip from that location to Baker Street just after the match should have put you here approximately a half hour to an hour ago, give or take a variable or two. So something must have delayed you. Since you have come from there to here unexpectedly, I surmise it was something of a criminal nature prompting you to seek my assistance. Generally only a murder, and a prominent one, would be sufficient to send you in such haste to my door. But in any case, I conclude you were in attendance at Stamford Bridge today, though what originally brought you to be there, as I said, I cannot guess. Once I had metaphorically lifted my jaw from the floor and could speak again, I nodded in agreement. Just so, Holmes, just so. All right, so I guess that wraps us up. If you guys have any questions or anything, by all means, let me know. Otherwise, I've got copies of all three of those books, plus the two that are for charity, only got one of those left, I guess.
Just one of those.
Oh, okay. The trivia book, and then I did a novella for Airship 27 that'll be out in a bigger book next year, but White Rocket put it out as a little novella, one shot. It's a pulp story about a pulp air pilot from the 30s, kind of a Indiana Jones type deal. So I have one copy of that. So let's see, these are $5, $20, and 10. So if anybody's liking that, by all means, I would love to hand over. And thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate it. And thank you, Maddie, for your